So should we record in wide format or vertical format in content production? And I've got a very easy answer, and it depends. And it's kind of true. So I say it depends for a couple reasons. One is the hardware we're using, which we'll get to in a minute, and how we're going to film with it. The other thing is it depends on what format or what service you're going to put this on. So a lot of people will say that you should always film in a wide format. That way you have the most options. And that's partially true. And I've done a fair amount experimenting with this during my content production for large media companies, YouTube channels, and then also for my small YouTube channels and my clients. And it is somewhat true that you should film in wide, but I think there's a lot more nuance to it, and I think you should actually film for what the video is meant for. So if you don't know what the video is meant for, you don't know where it's going to go, sure, shoot in a wide, and we'll discuss more about that in a second. But if you know it's going to go on social media, I think you should think about actually filming in vertical. So every time that I film in a wide, like I am now, and I end up putting it on shorts, something doesn't quite feel right. And so if you're shooting a documentary or long form content, it makes sense to film it in a wide because that's what you expect. And there's something less personal if you're filming for social media and you're filming on a wide. It just doesn't feel quite right. Social media feels like you're actually talking one-on-one with somebody. And when you film it on a camera, it feels somehow more distant and less connected than if you're filming vertical, and then ideally vertical, maybe even handheld, because it feels, like I said, more connected and that you're actually having a conversation with somebody, which is what social media is about, is having conversations in a lot of cases. So when you're filming the social media, I think it makes sense to try to shoot vertical. And if you're filming more YouTube style, that you should be thinking about filming like traditional YouTube, I should say, a long form content. Maybe you should think about more of using a wide, obviously. Okay, but let's talk about some of the physical reasons why you might want to think about shooting wide versus vertical format, tall format. So I am on a wide, I'm on a 16 millimeter on my Sony a6700. And so let's say right now I should be framed. I'm looking at my little screen here. So I should be framed pretty well in the middle. But when I go to crop, I'm going to be super tight right here because I'm pretty close. But in the wide, I feel normal. But in the vertical, I feel like I might be kind of tight. So I should probably take maybe a step back, something like this. It's kind of hard to tell. But what I find that I make the most mistakes with, and most people make the most mistakes with when they're filming on a wide format, is not getting the proportions right. You never quite get it right on a wide, and it's okay, and you can crop in and post, but it just never quite feels right. It's good enough, but in a lot of cases, I'm not looking for good enough, I'm looking for great. I like to think so anyways. And so the other thing is with you shooting on a wide, and you're thinking like, well, that's okay, I'll shoot in a wide, that way I can move around and I'll just be able to cut and post in editing to make it where I'm always in screen. But a lot of times when you do that, when you switch to the side, things get warped and weird. So like technically I'm still in frame here and we can cut to this, but you'll notice when I get to the edges of the lens, you get some weird warping and things just don't quite feel as natural as that. So you see how my head is this size, large but not crazy, but over here things start getting stretched and weird, even though I'm the same distance from the camera. And so yes, this did capture everything that we're talking about, and I'm able to edit it where it shows up in a short, but it doesn't necessarily feel natural or look natural. So if you're concerned about being in camera at all, well, obviously this is the way to go. Now let's actually turn this camera vertical. And then now let's record some stuff. How are we doing? Are we doing it right? Is this working for everybody? Here we go. Maybe. Okay. Yeah. That's good enough. Okay, so this I am more limited, right? Because I can't be moving too much to the right or too much to the left, but I have less of the warping things that we were looking at earlier, unless I really get to the top of the screen or the bottom, which my tailgate's blocking. And so, but this feels more natural for a social media post. And I think it's more appropriate for filming social media, like we were talking about. Even though I'm limited on my movements here, the point is if you're going to be shooting social media, you should probably be moving around like this anyways, maybe. Depends on the content you're producing. So if we're shooting social media stuff, I think this feels much better, more natural. We're able to pick it up and move it around a little bit. Feels more natural, right? We're having a connection. It's me and you on camera together. It's very exciting. Okay. The other thing is if you shoot social media stuff in a vertical format, it depends on the type of camera. So mine is shooting in 4K right now, so I'm actually in 4K, so I have really good resolution and fidelity right now, or I should. And so even though that TikTok, Instagram, YouTube all condense this 4K down to 1080p, there's something about it that always just looks a little bit more better. More better is the right word. And so if we turn it back up, oh God, so now this is back to being vertical again. So this is 4K. And when you crop it down to the center, it actually stays 1080p. And so the quality is still there, but I just don't think it ever quite looks quite as good. I think it looks fine, but never super amazing. And so, like we were talking about earlier, to wrap this up, I say it depends on what you're shooting for. If I'm trying to shoot for a awesome documentary, an awesome vlog where I really want to highlight how amazing this place is and really show off my skills as a videographer and producer, then I'm probably going to leave it in a wide format. But if I'm just trying to make a connection with you on social media, then I should use the appropriate formatting and use this vertical format. And in the end, you can still edit vertical format into a wide. You just need to use some of the effects or get creative on how you show up on the other unused pieces of screen. Ooh, and hey, I've got a neighbor. Check this guy out. He's walking. Yeah, that guy's cool. He's always out walking in the neighborhood. And the last point I want to make is do what feels right in the moment. So when I'm out filming things, sometimes it's a spur of the moment where I just pick up the camera and I start rolling. And in that case, do whatever feels natural. And for a lot of times, for me, it's just grabbing the phone and going vertical because that is good enough. And so I see a lot of people making mistakes where they just don't film because they want to think about it too much and they get in decision paralysis, not knowing which one to do. I think the most important thing to do is use either one, just as long as you're producing content. I think that's the most important, is actually getting things done. And whether that's in vertical format that you have to figure out how to extend the screen, or in wide format that you have to figure out how to crop and keep you center and frame, either way, that's better than no content being produced. Hope that helps. Love you guys. So I should not be looking at the screen. It's so tempting to look at yourself.